A Gaze Blank and Pitiless by Ken Troop. Innistrad has entered a new age of prosperity and peace. Avacyn, a powerful angel who is the living embodiment of hope and protection for humans everywhere, is free from her imprisonment and has helped the humans beat back the evil horrors that lurk within Innistrad. The vampires are in retreat, and the werewolf curse has been alleviated by the Curse Mute, a magical edict from Avacyn that gave afflicted lycanthropes the choice either to become wolfier, woven servants of Avacyn, or, in rarer cases, to be fully cured. The people of Innistrad prosper and thrive under the benevolent and caring eye of Avacyn, working towards establishing a permanent new dawn for humans. The prayers of 10,000 souls washed over Avacyn like a misty rain, a pleading susurrus of hope and fear. Avacyn, watch over my children. Avacyn, make my crop strong. Avacyn, the pain, make it stop. Avacyn, grant him a clean death. Avacyn. She hovered in the thin cold air so thin her wings would have been insufficient to keep her aloft without the aid of power. It was one of her favourite retreats. A desolate valley in the highest mountain passes in southern Stensia. The cold was absolute at this height. Thick frost covered every surface, permitting no life to abide. Avacyn did not feel the cold. She appreciated the solitude, the purity of wide space with nothing for company but the crackling ice, the whistling wind, and the whispers of prayers. The prayers were always present, a constant insistence in the back of her mind. From the briefest moments after her awakening, the prayers were there. They were few at first, small, tentative, searching, but over time the number of prayers grew, and they became more direct, more beseeching. Protect us, save us, help us.
Help me!
A panicked prayer broke through the normal murmurs. A woman's voice. A woman in pain.
Avacyn, hear me! My child! My child, please! My Avacyn!
Avacyn focused on the prayer, on the woman sending it to her, and saw an image of the woman running and sobbing in the middle of a large meadow. Avacyn soared above the mountain tops and swooped down to the south toward Gavany. Though she heard thousands of prayers throughout the world, she rarely had time to address them individually. From the beginning of Avacyn's existence had been the word protect. Even now, thinking of it triggered the cascade of images that had accompanied her first moments of existence. A flash of a world draped in autumn and blood, and the numerous predators poised to ravage it. Vampire and werewolf, demon and zombie, geist and devil. Each one seared into Avacyn's mind, into her very identity, as a threat to be fought and scoured. And the images of the mortals in all their shapes and sizes, their humanity defined by their frailty and their devotion. Protect. And over time, Avacyn's understanding of the world grew, became more nuanced. Protect them. This concept was Avacyn's essence. With each passing year, the purpose of her existence had unfolded in crystalline beauty. She was not meant to fight every monster, to stop every evil. Such work would have been impossible. Instead, she led and inspired, bolstering the faith of countless humans. That faith in turn bolstering the wards and charms humanity used as protection from the predations of evil. There were occasions when Avacyn would fight, when some intractable or powerful evil would demand her personal attention. But there were always too many fights, too many prayers, for Avacyn to respond to every one. But occasionally a prayer would break through to Avacyn, a prayer imbued with such fervent faith or desperation that Avacyn felt a pull to help. Early in her existence there had been little conscious intent to this pull. She just knew she must intervene personally in certain events. But over the centuries, she had gained more control over when and where she involved herself. The power of this mother's prayer, her shattering panic rising to a crescendo of need, reached Avacyn. The mother's fear for her child was pure and unalloyed, and such purity compelled direct action from Avacyn. Avacyn sped through the lower mountain valleys of Stensia, tracing an unerring path toward her petitioner. The strength of the woman's prayer a bright beacon in Avacyn's mind. The cloak covering the mountains changed from snow to trees, from the tyranny of endless white to the melange of green, brown and orange heralding the coming of the harvest moon. Avacyn was not prone to reflection, but she could not help feeling satisfaction at all that had been wrought since her release from the Hell Vault. The werewolves were gone, some cured and others transformed into the Wolfear, helpful allies for Avacyn and her angels. The devils and demons were scattered and ineffective, and for the one or few times since Avacyn's awakening, the vampires were in retreat. Humanity was free of its long siege of darkness, and civilization flourished. It was a new era for the humans. It was a new era for the world. And Avacyn would be there, continuing to protect the humans and protect the world, as she always had. Avacyn did not like smiling. She had never understood the point of it. But she suspected this is what humans felt when they smiled. A deep and abiding satisfaction. It felt correct. Avacyn noted the wan light from the sun, soon to fall below the forested horizon. Night would rise shortly. As she lit upon a sparse meadow outside of a dark forest, she saw a woman lying on the grassy slope outside the first ring of trees, sobbing and crying out a name.
Maylie! Maylie!
The woman stood and walked toward the forest as Avacyn landed.
Petitioner, you have called me.
Avacyn's tone was calm, reassuring, but the woman had turned in a sudden terror before recognizing what she was seeing.
Avacyn! You came!
The woman was frantic, and it took time for her to calm herself and tell Avacyn what had occurred. Her child had run away from home, and had been seen running off into the forest. While the world was much safer since Avacyn's return, it was still not a safe world, especially for children. The mother had been about to brave the forest herself for a child, though she risked death for both of them. Avacyn assured the mother she would try to find the child. Such a matter would have been trivial if the child had been praying to Avacyn, but as Avacyn turned her focus to the hundreds of prayers currently whispering in her head, none of them were from a child lost in the forest. Still, there were other ways to find the child. Avacyn flew over the dark forest until she approached its center. She channeled the power up through her spear, and its metal blade glowed bright. Brighter, brighter, until the light eclipsed the setting sun, and Avacyn channeled even more power, lighting up the whole sky above the forest. Avacyn could hear birds caw, and animals skitter, and even larger things thump below the forest canopy, all to get away from the bright light. Avacyn projected power into her voice.
Maylie, it is Avacyn. Call to me.
Her voice boomed and echoed off the trees throughout the forest. Then Avacyn was silent. She listened for a child's cry, and hoped for anything but silence and what that silence might herald. No voice reached out from the forest canopy, but a prayer did. Avacyn, please. I'm lost, and I'm sorry. I am wet, and I heard. Avacyn fixed the location of the child in her mind, and swooped over and down to a spot in the forest a few minutes away. It was a small child, a boy, and he was huddled in the crook of a tree. The boy looked at her, and at her glowing spear. Avacyn?
Child, come to me. You are safe now. I will get you home.
Avacyn's voice was even softer now, the softest she could make it. Avacyn had always been most comfortable with children. Their innocence, their earnestness had made them easier to comprehend. The boy approached her, his hesitation overcome as Avacyn put her spear to one side and welcomed him with her other arm. He ran to her, and she gathered him up in her arm and flew out of the forest. It took only moments for her to find the mother on the outskirts of the trees and give her the child. Both mother and child sobbed as they hugged each other. Avacyn wished every moment of every day was this: families rejoined, fear erased, happiness created. This is why she was. Satisfied her work was done, she began her ascent back to her mountainous retreat. A violent shimmer racked her body, shaking her vision. Everything in front of her doubled. The trees, the mother and child, each blade of grass, doubled and then doubled again. A pounding ache ran through her head and she dropped to the ground, crumpled in pain. A field of white flashed through her eyes, followed by an image of many floating stone obelisks, with intricate runes carved into their sides, moving in concert with each other. And then a normal scene resumed in front of her. Avacyn whipped her gaze around to identify the source of the attack. Few vampires had ever been powerful enough to launch such an assault. A demon lord, perhaps. There was a soft buzzing in her ears, a constant low hum that neither raised nor lowered in volume. It was just there. An off-tonal accompaniment to the prayers whispering in her head. The back of Avacyn's neck felt tight, and occasional involuntary shivers would shoot up from her neck through the rest of her head, as if in alarm to an attack. But no attack came. She shook her head in the hope it would clear the buzzing, but it remained in the back of her thoughts. The two humans still huddled in front of her, clutching each other, seemingly immune to whatever had struck Avacyn. As Avacyn watched, the mother's tears evaporated, her soft face hardened with anger.
How could you run away like that? What were you thinking, you stupid child?
She pushed the child away from her violently. The small human's face crumpled up in fear and he started bawling. The seeds of men are rotten. Avacyn did not know where the thought came from. It was like a prayer, a missive sent directly to her head, though no mortal had uttered it. The seeds of men are rotten. Avacyn peered closely at the child, and where once she had seen innocence, she now saw other details. The poxed skin, the snotty nose, the scabs and crust of organic decay, the snivelling face and plaintive need of reassurance after committing wrong. She looked back to the mother, that angry face already softening and seeking to reassure her wailing child. These mortals travel from anger to guilt and back again, and what is ever accomplished? Avacyn looked at the child, its wailing unabated. How short these mortals live. Today this was a small form of child. Tomorrow it will be a man, dirty, uncouth, prone to anger and cruelty. The day after, its flesh will be wriggling worms writhing in the dust. Avacyn stumbled away, her balance off, her mind fuzzy. She took flight, weaving back and forth into the sky with an unusual lack of grace, leaving both humans below. She sought to hear prayers, but coating every word was the buzzing. She could not make out the prayers over the constant noise. Instead, she came back to the same words again and again, plunged into her brain like a spear. The seeds of men are rotten. Avacyn fled, seeking refuge from her own mind. It was nowhere to be found.